Why should you learn Agentic AI for academic work, research, and data science? Well, some top researchers are extensively using Agentic AI to do their research, while others have no clue. Sometimes they don't even know the definition and understand how to eventually use Agentic AI for their work. So I really intend to bridge this gap and allow everyone to remain competitive and know how to reliably and critically use generative AI. So indeed, today, if you look at even arguably one of the smartest person on this planet, Terence Tao, he's also using AI with his work in math. And other top researchers, for example, in my fields, econometrics, Pedro Sant'Anna, also share extensively how he's using agentic AI in his workflow from teaching, producing educational content, but also extensively in research. And now it's really not enough to know how to use an LLM. All the exciting stuff are happening at the agentic AI level. And if you look at recent research, in 1 week, 3 papers have been published in Nature about how to use agentic AI to help scientific research. And again, all the groundbreaking tools and results are at the agentic AI level. For example, the work by Professor Yanagizawa-Drott from University of Zurich, the autonomous policy evaluation pipeline, where they generated 1,000 papers. You have the very popular tool refine.ink, which is a tool that is used to review academic work that is supported by top research teams in the world. And recent research also focused exclusively on using agentic AI to replicate and extend papers. So here we can really see producing research, reviewing research, reproduction of research, and extension can use agentic AI. So my goal is really to take you from scratch to the frontier of what we can do with agentic AI, grounded in a lot of actual examples from my practice in research using agentic AI. This class is split in 5 parts where we start with the foundation, what is agentic AI, how to use it, how to install it. We'll focus on Claude Code, but you'll see that the whole class is made to focus on concepts, how to think, how to use critically, and can be applied to different agentic AI systems, and of course, will be valuable for a long time and not just for one update today. And every part is illustrated with this practical example. The first, it will be about onboarding a new research project, cleaning and organizing a new research project. In the second part, I'll show you really the biggest step between a standard LLM and what is agentic AI with one-shot execution, where basically we'll run one single prompt and generate an entire, for example, empirical paper, theoretical paper, also with one single prompt, generate a dynamic educational website based on your research papers. And then we learn all the key tools to go further. The MCP, how to connect to other apps, for example, Notebook LM, Notion, Google Calendar. We learn what are hooks and what are skills and how to create all these and use them together with, again, concrete examples. Then in part 4, we'll move to how to create agents ourselves and create pipelines, workflows with agents working in series or in parallel. Here, one example will be how do I create a full website and push online in a single click with agents that will pull the transcript from my course, the slides from my course, put everything together with several steps to check that everything is correct and reliable. And finally, we'll dive into the autonomous pipelines. Here, I'll show you how I build such autonomous pipeline that will publish papers, replicate the results, and then augment the results autonomously with several rounds of referring everything autonomously with the agents I create myself and following a precise pipeline I define with reliable sources. And very importantly, we are going to see when to use AI and how to use it reliably and critically, and when not to use it. And we'll make this choice using a framework I've taught extensively in academia and industry to really think about the ultimate goal and long-term impact. For example, if you have something very structured, where you just care about the output, you have a clear plan and you just want to automate the boring part, that's typically a good sign that you can automate and use agentic AI to do so. What we don't want to automate is, for example, even if we can't, a full generation of a paper, because doing research is also about writing the paper yourself, doing some part to see if you really understand what you're doing, to eventually get new ideas, to structure your thoughts, to really own the process. And when the process is what matters, you don't want to automate fully the process. So to help you figure this out, I use a very precise framework that will apply to all the examples throughout the class, where you think before, should I use Agentic AI for this task or not. And here you'll focus on understanding what you might gain, what you might lose, and understand if it's about the process or the outcome. If you go for Agentic AI, you have two more filters and rules to follow during the use of Agentic AI. You need to be able to filter in to know which tool, how to use it, what kind of information you should give, and filter out. Have the capacity to check the results and actually take the time to do so. And I also show you how to create an output where it's easier to double check. And after, of course, you look back and you evaluate. Was it a good application? Should I change something for next time? And generally speaking, was it worth it, or should we break down or avoid generative AI next time for these tasks? So as you might know, during my academic career, I published in top scientific journals. My expertise is the study of causalities, econometrics, causal inference, where basically I help evaluate impact. And today I help evaluate the impact of AI, which made me work a lot on how to use AI positively because I focus on measuring the impact. And over the last 10 years, I trained more than 15,000 people in academia, in industry, from very experienced data people, ML engineers from top tech companies like Meta or Amazon, but also experienced researchers in medical research, in economics, engineers, and even C-level. And long story short, I'm going to build on all this experience to share with you all my tips in this course. So what you can do is, of course, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, ask me questions, and follow my contents that I publish every day. Or you can enroll in this course, Claude Code for Research. And also, before this, if you feel that you don't master yet enough basic LLMs before going to Agentic AI, you can also follow my full free course, GenAI and Research, that's available on GitHub page. You can find the link below. And this will not go into Agentic AI, but teach you basically every step of research. How can you do it traditionally? And how can you use generative AI to help? So if you're ready to upskill and to see how to critically use generative AI to focus on what matters in your job and augment the capabilities again in a reliable way, connect with me and join the class.